He's the man. He's the myth. He's the scientist with all the answers and all the questions. It's time for another episode of Alex's Science Corner. Oh. Wow.
Shake it! I have got to bring my noise-canceling headphones in.
That loud chihuahua is in here again. Alex, what's going on in the wide, wide world of science, my friend?
Why can I never match up to the cheering that comes in?
No pressure.
No pressure. So, first story is about Amazon rainforest, and these researchers were studying the various types of trees, and they were finding that there were a lot more cultivated trees in the Amazon than they expected. They found that between 20 to 30% of the trees in the Amazon were cultivated. And these are different types of fruits and nuts that were developed by ancient peoples and grown and cultivated. So what they're finding is they're finding these clumps of various trees, and they're matching them up to various pre-Columbian civilizations, and they were finding that they were matching up. And whenever these civilizations died, the cultivated trees would take over that area even more. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I was just going to ask if there was a lot of hardwoods out there.
He's surprised that you're behaving.
Yeah. So now what they're finding is that there are a lot more areas where human civilization or pre-Columbian cultures were more embedded into the Amazon rainforest than they thought. And so now what they're doing is they're using these clumps of trees to try and find where these civilizations were so they can start doing archaeological digs in those areas.
Now, do they match them up with the tribes or?
Yeah, well, what they were doing is they were first finding these various clumps of cultivated trees. And so they were starting to, then they went with archaeologists and said, was there any civilizations here or towns or villages in the area? And there were. And what happened is after Columbus came in and they started to get depopulated because of disease, the areas where these towns and villages would be overgrown, but they would be overgrown with the cultivated trees.
Darn white people.
And
wait a minute. The trees that they weren't cultivated by the natives. They were
cultivated by the natives.
Natives there.
Yeah. The trees are he's
not
talking
by
about
the Columbus people that came.
No, he's complaining about the disease.
Yes, the disease.
Oh, okay.
The phone is lighting up. And I kid you not.
So
yeah, and please redirect those comments to Darnell.
So
yeah, really, please.
So there had to be a lot of hardwood out there.
Yes.
There were many basketball courts built.
Yes, the Amazon is known for its various hardwoods.
Or is it basketball teams?
Yeah. Okay.
But the part of the story is that there's
Darnell this week.
the Amazon has been a lot more cultivated, and there's a lot more human involvement in the Amazon than they had thought. Because again, what they were finding is places that they thought was all untouched. They go in and find all these cultivated trees, and they're saying, "Oh, there used to be humans that lived here, and this is their marker." That they used to be here is that this patch of area has all these cultivated trees. The village or the town may have disappeared, but they used to be humans here. Okay?
Or aliens.
Okay. All right, story number 2.
I don't think aliens would be worried about the various types of trees in the Amazon. Just saying. I'm sorry, I would have gotten a space story for you, Darnell. I didn't have one.
Yeah, I thought you were going to have a story on the fact that there's going to be a private trip to the moon.
No, it's not as much as science, and it's still one of those people talking about, just like there's that private trip to Mars.
It's not as good as the story we read a while back about people selling land on the moon.
Oh yeah, that is not a science story.
Well, if you listen to my show on Tuesday nights, you can get high enough to touch the moon.
As soon as you come
Because
up,
you can get a contact
All right.
high from the radio.
all right. Story number
Alex,
two.
Alex, next story. I'm
And
taking
this
the
is
mic
something
away.
I'm going to be discussing with Darnell. It's about depression. And so, one of the challenges with dealing with various types of mental illness, specifically about depression in this story, is that there are a lot of symptoms that are very similar. And so the doctors have been going by symptoms, but they haven't been able to figure out various root causes, because different parts of the brain can affect how you get depressed, and you may act the same way, but the cause of that may be coming from different parts of the brain, either chemical or biological issues. And so these researchers have begun to start picking apart where different parts of the brain cause depression.
Now, is this a paid study?
No, it is not. One of the challenges with the research is that the researchers have to use fMRI brain scans, and they have to get scans of people that are not depressed and people that have suffered depression. And to get enough of those, first of all, fMRI is not a detailed scan. And you have to get enough people to be scanned that that person A is not suffering depression, and you got to get a couple hundred people like that to get a general area of where something may be happening. And then you get people who are suffering depression, and then when you get a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people that are suffering depression, then you can spot the differences between the several hundred people that are not and the several hundred people that are. Because even a person, you're going to have differences between two people. So you've got to have a lot of people to try and get some kind of idea.
But what I don't understand is why don't they use like other methods, like more detailed methods?
It's really, really tough to get more detail. And right now, the best method out there is fMRI. Unfortunately, fMRI is not a fine tool. Even one of the things is if you do something like blink or look around when they're doing an fMRI scan, it can change the way the scan reads the brain.
But I thought they could see where your brain lights up and all that.
They
stuff.
can. But just because your brain lights up a certain way does not mean another person similar to you, suffering the same kind of mental problems you have, is going to light up the same way. So what they have to do is they have to get several hundred people and average that stuff out to get a general feeling of what is going on. And so one of the challenges the researchers had is trying to get enough of these scans to get statistical significant data.
Well, if they start paying people, I mean, give me $1,000, I'll sit up there.
Yeah, well, these researchers are university researchers, so they didn't have that.
They have no money.
Yeah.
You could volunteer.
Yeah, and so what it is
Yeah.
one of the parts of this article is talking about how they had to go and get the data from various places. And they had to go through, they had like 17 different sites around the world that
I
they were
was just
getting the
about
data
to ask
from.
that if they went to different parts of the world or whatever country,
Yeah.
because like someone depressed down in Hicksville, North Carolina, wouldn't seem.
Well, that's one of the challenges with trying to get this information, because when they're trying to get the information, they're trying to pick out different parts of the brain that may be significant in how a person is depressed. And during the study, they figured out for a certain type of depression that they were studying, there are 4 different places in the brain that it could be causing this kind of exterior symptoms. So what it is now that they've got that isolated, they might be able to start applying treatments for those individual causes. So the symptoms are the same, but you can't, if you give the same treatment to these 4 different people, it's not going to work for all of them. It may work for a quarter of them, or it may work for half of them, but it's not going to work for all of them. And so now that they've got a little better idea of what parts of the brain are causing some of these symptoms, now they can start going, okay, we've got a little bit of a marker here that says that it might be this kind of depression, so we can start trying to apply those treatments.
You know what I found that helps all types of depression? Listening to the Saturday Morning Club.
And with that,
and that's the end of the segment.
let's call it a wrap. I like where you're going with that. If you have any questions for Alex about these topics or any other science-related issues, you can call him right now at 203
837
99
24.